this episode, we unravel the enchantment behind two remarkable Instagram hubs, the Sydney Sunrise Club and the Sydney Sunset Club. Carmel, Charmaine, Karen and Vaz are the current moderators of two of the most popular Sydney photography hubs. The Sydney Sunrise Club captures the city's awakening, painting iconic landmarks with the first rays of light. The community shares the magic of Sydney's dawn with Instagram users, showcasing the beauty of the early hours around Sydney and its surrounds. The Sydney Sunset Club embraces the twilight hours, enveloping the city skyline and harbour in a warm golden embrace. This community shows off captivating sunset captures across the Sydney region. In this episode, we dive into the stories, inspirations and experiences of the moderators behind these hubs. Explore the magic that unfolds when a city's iconic moments meet photography. Sit back, relax, and let Sydney's sunrises and sunsets captivate your senses. I hope you enjoy the show. G'day, ladies. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
Really good.
We're great, Grant.
Excellent. Great to have almost all of the Sydney Sunrise Club with me. Why don't we start with you, Karen, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself and why you do what you do and what it is that you do, and then we can get into talking about the Sydney Sunrise Club a little bit more in depth.
Okay, Instagram brought us all together, but photography obviously is the first thing that brings us to Instagram. I think I got into photography when I was really young, was really interested in it, but not to a point where I was into all the technical stuff.
Yep.
I finally got interested more into it because I started an Instagram account when I got my first iPhone. And through that, I noticed that there were groups of people that would get together for Insta meets. And I went to one of them down at Cronulla, and that way I met a few people, and then I did a workshop on photography with my iPhone. Then I bought a camera, then I made more friends, and it started to become a huge part of my life.
Cool.
And then I was invited to join the Sydney Sunrise Club and the Sydney Sunset Club as a moderator. And it's just been a whirlwind ride ever since then. I've been involved with the clubs for probably 8 years, I think, 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah.
So that's basically where I really enjoy landscape photography, particularly sunrise, sunset, more on the coast. I also enjoy photographing my dogs.
Cool.
So there you go.
Thanks very much. How about you, Charmaine?
So I guess for me, I got into photography, only about 5 years ago. I always had a camera, I took it away. I used to always say to people that my camera's capabilities far exceeded my own. I only pretty much knew how to use auto, but always loved photography. And about 5 years ago, I got to a point where I work in an industry that's quite stressful and I needed something to offset my stress. So I chose photography. It's like my meditation. I don't think about work when I'm taking photos. It's just a great escape. And then obviously everyone you meet while you're doing your photography as well, you should create this whole new group of friends, and it just creates this whole new world that's separate to your stressful work life. And I always started taking wildlife photography and seascapes and oceanscapes. And these days I've got dive housing, surf housing. I'm in the water in summer, flying a drone above the water in winter because I might not like to be in the water. But yeah, so for me, oceans, seascapes, wildlife. But yeah,
with all the toys.
All the toys. Yeah, exactly. Makes for a very heavy backpack when you're traveling.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. You have to make those decisions going, what lenses am I taking? What can I really pack and carry on? Do I fly business so I can get the extra weight? But yeah, that's me. But yeah.
How about you, Carmel?
I go back a little bit further. I'm an analog girl, and I've got into photography through a boyfriend. And I never actually held the camera until after I broke off with him, but I got a lot of ambient information from it. I found out he was TAFE and was a working photographer. And when I finally got a camera in my hand, I realised I actually did learn a lot just by being around him and going on his different assignments and things like that. Now I just fell in love with it, and I ended up working in the industry too. I worked for a company that Kodak eventually took over, and I was in the developing side and some of the early pro labs in North Sydney. and then moved into retail management, and then eventually into Kodak head office, where I was the buyer for the retail arm of Kodak. And then I had kids, and Kodak wound up. I had kids and really put the camera down, mainly because I wasn't in control of the image anymore, and I didn't like handing over the negs to other people, where previously I've always been able to do the whole thing. And I just didn't like the quality of what I was getting back, and I lost all interest in it as just the clicking, and had kids. And then as the kids got older, again, the phone came in, and then eventually I bought myself a digital camera as well and back into it.
Yeah, cool.
And about 4 years ago, I was, and it's the adventure of photography for me. I like the adventure of photography.
You'd never know that, would you?
No. We often joke about needing to put a GPS tracker on Carmen when we go do some things to meet, so we always know where she is.
And floaties when she's near the ocean.
I was invited to the Sunrise Club the Sun Clubs about 4 years ago, and it's just been such a lovely fit. And I didn't realise how social photography could be, because back in the analogue days, it used to be a reasonably solitary experience. So this is not something I was expecting at all. And it's been such a delight, not only meeting the girls, but also meeting the wider community out there. Absolutely amazing and a lot of fun.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's one member missing, Vaz. Karen, I think you were going to talk a little bit about her.
I met Vaz in Cronulla because that's where she was living there when I first met her. Vaz is famous for her seagull photography.
Definitely,
and she just makes friends with the seagulls wherever she goes. And she's now got a house in Tasmania, so she spends a lot of her time down in Tasmania, and she couldn't make it back in time for this. But she's still very much involved in the clubs, because she obviously she's one of the moderators and gets to choose photos and feature them on the clubs. And whenever she's in Sydney, we get together. We miss her while she's down in Tasmania. Lifestyle choices. She's made friends with the seagulls down in Burnie.
Yeah.
And that took a while, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was very clear the difference. The seagulls weren't used to it, but now they are.
They're a bit standoffish down there, were they?
Yeah.
You know what it's like in Tasmania. You got to live there a while before you're a local.
Yeah. If you're a mainlander, you just don't fit in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and she spends most of the time down in Tasmania now, but we're very happy to still have her as part of the clubs.
So let's talk a little bit about the clubs, the Sunrise and Sunset, or Sydney Sunrise and Sunset clubs. How did they start? What was the impetus for starting them?
So I believe it was some Instagram friends who got together. They were friends through Instagram, a couple of ladies, and they, I guess around 10 years ago, hubs were really popular. And they were a great way for photography, or for photographers to be featured and to get their name out there and to get their photography out there. And there wasn't anything really local. It was all overseas.
Yep.
A lot of the hubs
10 years ago was very much sort of US and Europe centric.
Yeah. So these ladies got together and they started the Sunset Club first. And it proved quite popular. So they also started the Sunrise Club not long after that. So they've been going for about 10 years. There's been a lot of different people have been moderators on the clubs. We're the current ones. I think we've lasted quite a while too, and varying numbers of people, because there's quite a commitment. You're not just running your own Instagram. You've got to be on top of the clubs one as well. Yeah, so that's how it started. Just a couple of friends thought it would be a good idea, and it's gone from a few hundred followers. Actually, now that I think about it, one of the way I got involved in it was one of my photos was the first sunrise photo featured on the Sunrise.
Okay.
Yeah, inaugural sunrise photo, which was a real shock and ended up, it's quite an honour. Yeah, I forgot about that. So, yeah, it's been going for a while. It's had its ups and downs, and as it does when you get people from different backgrounds mixing. But we seem to be perfect fit for each other. We're all very different, but we just fit so well, don't we?
No, it's fun. If Instagram shut off tomorrow, I am sure we would
Yeah.
stay
We'll
together.
be friends there.
Yeah.
Tip all together.
In running it, talk me through, you mentioned it's obviously a little bit different to running somebody's individual account. You've got to look at, there's two clubs, the Sunrise and Sunset Club. So you're looking at the hashtags and trying to find the shot of the day, I guess. Is that all there is to it, or is there more to it? Because I know you do Insta meets, I know you do a lot of other community stuff as well. And so talk to me a little bit about how that all works.
You're looking at me.
No, it doesn't have to be you.
Basically, we have hashtags, and that gives us permission. If someone uses one of our hashtags in their post, it gives us permission to use their photo or to feature their photo. Not use it. We don't use it. We feature it.
Yep.
Or they can tag us. I'm not going to go into the technicality of that, but we've got 4 hashtags. People can go onto the club and find out what those hashtags are. If you use the hashtag, it's giving us permission to feature the photo. So we each have a day that it's our day to do a feature. So you go through the hashtag, you tags to find a photo that you would like to feature. We're very much looking for new photographers more than we are looking for people who are really well established.
More established, yeah.
We try to do a balance between established photographers and people who are new to Instagram, but we're very mindful that we love to feature new photographers on Instagram, and we're looking for different as well. It's very difficult around Sydney. For example, Sunset is obviously over the city, so it's hard to find different perspectives.
There's a lot fewer sunset places in Sydney than you might think. There's some if you know where to look, but
so that's your day, is basically going through all the hashtags, looking for those photos that are worthy of being featured. Obviously, we're not going to feature stuff that's not going to look good. And we're very mindful also of how it's going to look in our grid. We want that to be looking good. So we prefer photos that are in that square shape rather than photos that have a frame around them or photos that are in the landscape mode. For anyone that might be listening to this, pay attention to that. We really prefer that.
Sorry, I'm just going to add to that.
Let's go.
When you say square, people think only the 1 by 1.
But
no border. It also means no border.
4 by 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was going to say that. I was like, I was going to get that wrong. Is it 4-5 or 5-4? I was like, I will just say portrait. But exactly.
Portrait 5 by 4, 4 by 5, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But so we do have a preference for that. And I guess just adding to what Karen was saying, as you mentioned, we go through the hashtags, find an image that we love, whether it be an emerging or a current one. But we do have all these little rules that we have for ourselves. So we'll see, if we feature somebody, we usually won't feature them for another couple of weeks because we just want to make sure that we're obviously not.
Month or
depending on whether it's an emerging or a new.
Sure.
Yeah, so we try to give a gap so we're not featuring.
Yeah, you don't want the same faces every day. Yeah.
No, exactly. And behind the scenes, if we get tagged, that means there's a lot of DMs that we'll go through, usually respond to people in those DMs. And then obviously you feature them in the grid. You then also make sure that you post to your story. These days, obviously, there's more conversations happening around Reels and how we promote Reels as well and those sorts of things, because obviously as people change their habits, we need to move with those habits.
Another little admin thing we have to do is make sure that we are featuring a sunrise on a sunrise and a sunset on a sunset, because people they are 2 different clubs run by the same people, the Sun clubs, but quite often somebody will, because they're copying and pasting their hashtags, they'll do a sunset unusually and just post the sunrise club. And we have been known to go, one of us will go, that wasn't a sunrise, Carmel.
You're talking to me, Carmel.
It's very helpful to tag, right? Because as volunteers, they're the sort of things that you get all prepared. You've decided that's the one, at the last minute you realise got to start all over again.
And then double checking you actually do tag the correct person, because you can go through and say, I like those 5. And then you need to make sure that you actually tag the right person who's got that photo. And Yeah, there's a...
The other thing, again, those little rules that we do for ourselves, if we just posted one of Catherine Hill Bay, we'll try not to do Catherine Hill Bay for a little while, or the Opera House. So you could have a fabulous shot, but just by dumb luck, we posted that shot
Catherine Hill Bay the day before, and
location.
you luck
just
out.
To try to, again, it's just trying to be as democratic and as even as possible, and not giving a location a particular edge.
And then there's the Instamates, of course.
And then there's
the Instamates. That's where I met you all for the first time. I think would have been pre-COVID, probably about 2018 or 2019. I'm not sure which year it was, but I know you were very active with Instamates pre-COVID. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how COVID impacted all of that and how you struggled through some of that. But talk a little bit about how you organise them and what people could expect if they go and visit an Instamate.
Oh, the first thing is pinning down a date that we're all available.
That's the hardest bit, I think. Then it moves on pretty well after that.
Bit like finding a date for this podcast.
Checking for, there's something that we do need to get good at, checking for other events that are on when we pick our Instamate dates too.
Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Our last one was on Mardi Gras, which was a bit of a mistake. But that's all right. We still had like 15 people there or something. So it was still good.
It wasn't too bad. I think we really enjoy it. It's just those logistics of getting it together, and but anyway, we come away from it really energized because everybody who comes are just so amazing, and you just realize why we do this is to support the community, and the community it feeds us, so it's really
there's a lot of people out there, probably like myself when I very first started, very nervous of approaching photographers at popular spots. They can be very insular because there's photographers out there that don't want to talk to anybody. But you want to learn more, and the best way to learn is from other photographers.
Absolutely.
Or to get your inspiration from other photographers. So the Instamates give some of those people who don't really have any connections a chance to connect. And we've found that we've got a marvellous community out there that is just directly as a result of having Instamates for the clubs. Organising the Instamate, once we've got our date, the organisation it's pretty smooth. There's not a lot to do other than announcing it. We do spend a lot of behind the scenes sending people messages. Yep. We like to try and get personal invites out to as many people as we possibly can, and we tend to approach those people that are always hashtagging us.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but anybody who sees
anybody's
invited. And the other thing I think that is really important, I think, it doesn't matter if you're taking photos on an iPhone or a $10,000 camera and that you've mortgaged your house on. It really doesn't matter. We're all into photography, and everyone is welcome.
Sometimes you have to taste the joint too to find out whether there's good coffee there.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the most important things is that the breakfast afterwards.
I am 100% sure.
Worth turning up for.
All the benefit of the sunset thing. Yeah, it is really a community hub, and without a doubt, I am sure most people come. They can always go and take a photo wherever we are, but they can't always get together with a whole lot of people who have got the same hobby, and that just it's the energy on those socialise at the coffee or the pub afterwards is fabulous. It's really good.
Remember the one we did in the city where we did one at Circular Quay, and thankfully all the cruise ships were coming back in, and we had an amazing turnout. And then we'll all spread out, and then other photographers are going, oh, what's going on, et cetera, and then you chat to them, and then all of a sudden they've just hitched a ride, and then they meet people, and then they're joining you for breakfast and coffee, and it's
really dynamic. It's amazing.
That's incredible because I think there was like 40 or 50 of us that converged on a cafe at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and they couldn't believe it.
And for that one, I was the person, just because of where I was the person who's trying to find the coffee shop, and you've got to look. The coffee shop's got to be big enough to take 40, but you can't guarantee them 40. So it's a real.
That's the thing. You're not sure whether you're going to get 10 people or 100 people.
No, so that is, but it somehow it's all come together. It's always worked.
Always
but it's an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, fantastic. So talk to me about how COVID impacted all of that activity, because I know, having been to a few of those Insta-meets, that it was really vibrant and lively before then, and then all of a sudden everything's locked down. How did you get through all of that, and what did you do to keep the community spirit alive?
Well, you're right, because it really affected everything, not just the Insta meets, which obviously, as we said, we thrive off and we love that community, but it was even just the photos that people were taking, and the hashtags and the drop in those sorts of things. And yeah, we had quite a few conversations around how do we do, what do we do, how do we manage this. We would do more throwbacks, because we obviously have had lots of images. Yeah, and you go back, and as Carmel said, there might have been 2 great opera house shots. We're not going to feature 2 in a day, etc. Feature on those sorts of things. And then I think you were going to say something then.
Sorry for that, interrupting.
That's okay.
I even preempted it this time. I was like, Carmel's like, I've got 6 sentences in. It must be time.
I actually quite liked the variety in lockdown, because people were taking photos from their backyards, like they couldn't access the opera house.
Yeah,
and we were getting photos. We are a very beach-based sunrises, and we were getting them from all over Sydney or the Southern Highlands or wherever people were living, or Newcastle. And I actually quite the sunrise through the frangipani tree, or the coming in through there. So the variety I thought was endearing, that people were still loving their photography and seeing the beauty, which is, I think, what all us photographers have in common. We have this ability to see the beauty, and if you're locked down, then there's still beauty there to be found. I also found that quite lovely.
We even posted about it and said, hey, get creative. And I think from memory we might have posted like 5 suggestions on things that you can do if you can't get out to your local places. Yeah, exactly. Consider your house, what's the sky like, etc. What's your daily walk like? Take photos and post those.
It doesn't have to be of the big fancy things. You can still express yourself without having a showstopper as such.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think also, not long before COVID, we had expanded our borders. When we all first came on board, we only did Sydney.
Yeah, right.
We might occasionally go as far south as Coldcliff, but we officially expanded our borders to Newcastle, Hunter Valley, Blue Mountains, Southern Highlands, and then all the way to Kiama. So that gave us more. Yeah, we had more to choose from, which was good. And we've had a lot of really good photographers come on board. Did we have someone at our last Insta-meet, or an Insta-meet that travelled from Newcastle?
I think we did.
I thought we did. Yeah. So we actually have talked about it, whether we ever actually get around to it, having Insta-meets in Newcastle and the Blue Mountains, and then down Wollongong way. Yeah.
And if we could, because obviously I spend half my time on the Central Coast, I could.
Yeah, Central Coast.
It's falling here now.
Yeah, and the Insta-meet side, obviously, we really missed that during COVID.
Yeah.
And then it was really hard as well coming out of COVID, because then you would have we're on our way out. Oh, hang on, no, there's another lockdown. So there were a few people like, we planned an Insta-meet, then we're like, okay, hang on, no, we have to pull that back. It's a bit too early. There's another wave coming, and those sorts of things. And then I think we had one where people were wearing masks, so we were just making sure everyone, don't forget you can spread out, have distance between you.
Yeah,
we did also, because we are again trying to include everybody, we did make the decision, I think, not to open up until we properly opened up. So we weren't going to. It had to be open.
Because it got a bit political.
It got a bit nations. We didn't want to be in that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Just the way. And I think, like everybody else, like everyone's lives changed over COVID, and their motivations changed, how they got out changed, and that involves us. And Baz moved to Tasmania.
Yep.
Charmaine spending time on the coast, which makes it even harder to get us all together. But we do still love it. It's just a logistic. It's just still a logistic thing. But one thing that did happen during COVID is our numbers went up. We were one of the very few people that we did quite well, and I think it had something to do with that, finding a community and feeling comfortable. And maybe even the photographers that couldn't, let's say you were from the Southern Highlands and you can't post the Opera House, they probably felt a little bit more included, or somebody in the Mount Druitt or Hunter Valley or something like that. Everyone, it even the playing field a lot, if you get my drift. I don't know. That was my feeling on it anyway.
Definitely.
There were benefits.
But no, we still haven't quite gotten to the ramp up, I think, of what we had pre-COVID, though, for Instameets. So we do keep talking amongst ourselves about wanting to increase our number of Instameets that we have again.
Because people really love them.
And we love them.
And they always ask, when's the next one? When we get around to organising ourselves.
Seriously, dates are really difficult, yeah. But anyway, we'll get there.
I know from my experience, they're absolutely wonderful events, and it's great, as you said, to talk to people, whether they're established photographers or people that are just starting out. And you A, learn a lot, and B, I think you get a lot out of that socialization and being able to talk with people that have common interests. Speaking about that, I guess I'm interested in how that collaboration and community building has helped your own creativity as individual photographers.
For me,
that's a good question.
I know. That's why I asked it.
Also, I think that's interesting, actually. One of the things more generally about social media, obviously, is you're always basically, whether you mean to or not, you measure yourself against other photographers.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you look at people and go, oh my goodness, that's stunning. Why have I go to this location? I don't get anything that looks like that. And so then when you have Instameets and you have this broad group of people, that some are really experienced and some that aren't experienced, in a way, it, to me, helps sort of hit a bit of a reset button in a way. And you don't need to compare yourself, etc. Like for Instameets, sometimes I don't even take my camera, mainly because I just hover around and chat to people and have a look at what they do. And it's nice to be able to give some people some suggestions on what to do. Don't forget the harbour bridge. Don't forget the puddle, the famous puddle. So if you're here, might be something that you want to try out, etc. But yeah, so I like it. I think it helps balance me out anyway, and reminding myself it's all a journey. Some people are up here, some people are down here.
Yeah, and everybody's wherever they happen to be on that journey. Nobody's not everybody's in the same place.
Yeah. But then, talking to everybody as well, as you talk about the collaboration, you'll meet somebody and you realize that you both have similar interests, and maybe your photography is similar, or you both have, a bunch of you have a location that you'd love to try out. So then you'd be like, hey, well, DM me, we'll organize something. And so then you have all these splinter activities that will happen and those sorts of things. And you just get to expand.
I think I enjoy meeting new photographers that I didn't even know existed on Instagram. And following them, and you do get inspiration from the different styles of editing or different styles of photography. I find that helps for me, and I really enjoy seeing people come together who've never met before, and they're different people, and here they are, they hit off and they end up being really good friends.
I have never ever seen any sort of inclination at those big Instameets with any. It's just, you could round robin with everybody, and everybody is just vibing off each other. And the inspiration is almost in the emotions to me, or rather than the photography in many ways, because I adore that we all see the same scene differently. I think that's absolutely very cool. If anything, it also like validates if you're going down a different road. That's okay. You don't have to go down the same road as everybody else. Even if you could be two photographers you admire standing right next to each other with completely different views, and they,
and then you get the inspiration. Like you peek over someone's shoulder and go, "That's a fascinating composition. Never thought of that. That's amazing. Look at how that's going to turn out. Can't wait to see you post that one." But so just seeing all the different ideas that people come up with, as you talked about, even everything from the iPhone to the expensive camera. It's just amazing to see what everyone comes up with at that one location. Can be so different.
Yeah, it always fascinates me. You can get 5 or 6 photographers standing within 20 metres of one another, and they all come up with something completely and utterly different.
Actually, it's just reminding me, I used to be a rather singular photographer, go out and photograph by myself, and I learned photographing with other people. It just opens up a completely different world. I love still photographing by myself that meditative thing that Charmaine was talking about. That's still quite very special. But photographing with other people and standing shoulder to shoulder and coming up with completely different ideas is really inspiring. That's lovely. And it doesn't matter. And the fact that I'll use Charmaine again as an example, or Karen and Vaz, no matter how, you can still whip out your phone and get an awesome shot too. Nothing is off the table. Everything is okay.
And then you can all spend the morning yabbering away around ISO and aperture. No one thinks you're crazy.
That's right.
No, that's right.
And if you're driving along with somebody and taking a photo is also okay.
Look at that sunrise. Quick, come, we'll pull over.
Yeah. No, it's lovely. Everything about it's lovely.
One of the other aspects, I think, aside from the community, is the sort of the cultural and social perspectives that different people bring, because it's a fairly diverse group that turns up to the Insta meets that I've seen. And obviously on Instagram, you've got very diverse people and views and so forth. How do you think that has fed into the success of the clubs?
Oh, I think that's huge, quite frankly. I think, and I'll go more historically, it's an awful lot better now, but there was definitely a time when females particularly were not as accepted. And I will still find, if I go to somewhere where there are other photographers, and I tend to say good day to people, and I totally accept not everybody will do that.
Too. You say hello to everybody.
And and I've been with a male photographer, and they will always talk to the male photographer and they won't talk to me. And it is definitely getting better, but I think having something which has got an egalitarian mindset that the Sun clubs have, regardless of gear, regardless of whatever, there are no provisos. I think that's helpful. I think it's really helpful, and certainly I know there are. Yeah, so from a completely gender-based thing, the inclusiveness is nice.
Yeah, I think adding to that as well, that we're quite proud of the fact that it's quite interesting. This Sun Club traditionally has had almost always females who run the club.
Coincidence.
We don't play on it, etc. But we do find it fascinating.
It's not overtly out there, but that's the way that it's organized. Yeah.
But what we're proud about is the fact that when we run Insta meets, we have a really balanced group. So we just have almost like a 50-50 split. We have this lovely balance of people. And I think we had one where we had a really young kid who was just getting into his photography. He was like 15 or 16.
Yeah,
and then we'll have people that are, remember the Americans that we had?
From other countries.
Wow.
And they were like way in the retirement age. So yeah, we just male, female, all the age groups.
And cultures too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The different cultures that come along is amazing.
Very good, yeah.
And once again, the different takes, people will bring light gear and all those sorts of things. So it's just...
It is. It's something where it's got a little proud of. I don't know. And I guess it is also, it comes down to, again, it's a community hub. It doesn't work without the participants, and it's very much it's
like a safe
place.
Yeah. We all have a laugh as you've been to them. So for us, it's all about making sure we say hello to everybody, make sure everybody feels included, that no one sort of feels like they're off on their own. We'll definitely make sure that no one feels uncomfortable. It's all about having fun and enjoying the experience.
And I think also in your photography journey, I feel like a lot of people got their first feature from the Sun clubs because of our attitude of finding new people. And I don't know, I think that might have something to do with it too. Yeah.
And as you can tell, we're always laughing. We're really looking forward to hearing the edit here where you're like, how do I cut that one?
That's right, you got the work cut out.
You've obviously shot around Sydney quite a lot. Do each of you have favourite locations that you like to go to and they keep calling you back? I know, Carmel, you've got a few.
How do I narrow this down?
Cronulla's my favourite because it's close to home and it's got lots of options.
An early
sunrise. Yeah, that's a major thing. The coffee shops in Cronulla open at 5:30.
Yeah, that's a bonus. Definite bonus.
But yeah, in winter that's coffee before.
Yeah.
Anywhere coastal is my favourite. Yeah. And I always think I'm going to set a goal to make sure I get to every single ocean pool this summer and swim in it. But I never.
Yeah, I've been trying that for a few years and it hasn't worked yet.
What about?
For me, it depends. So I definitely Bronte. Once again, it's close to me. If I'm in the water, because I'm not a surf photographer, I'm not a big fan of the 6-foot waves, etc. It's just like maybe when I was younger, but not now.
Sand.
So the sand. But so for me, being able to get into the water with my dive gear in ocean pools, I just really love that experience. Usually, if there's an ocean pool with a good view of a sunrise or a sunset, but Bronte's my go-to. If I'm using my drone, I'll do, for example, Maruga is my favorite location. It's really on the beach, usually has really, really nice surf. And if you get down the south end early enough, or you get other surfers, there's no one else down there. It's just perfect day. But eastern suburbs. But then obviously I spend a lot of time on the central coast now as well. And I'm at the north end, so it's usually like Catherine Hill Bay, or once again Tawoon Bay and Shelley Beach. So still once again quite coastal. Yeah, I'm still considering.
Go on, commit, Carmel.
Her balcony.
Yeah, the balcony. I think the balcony that's becoming famous.
You going every day? And what's the weather like? We'll just check the good morning or the good evening from Carmel.
I feel like I spam people, or sometimes I go, no, I'm not showing them that again. I don't know. I really and honestly, I don't. I like going somewhere different. Somewhere different is always really exciting, but harder and harder to do. The more you photograph, the harder and harder it is to find somewhere different.
As long as there's somewhere to scramble over rocks or get washed off the rocks, that's your go.
Yeah, I do. I do like that.
The Blue Mountains and the exploring there as well.
On the north side, Parramatta,
Parramatta,
it's just, I like the fact that you could be anywhere there. It's not a Sydney beach; it's an anywhere beach, and I love that.
And it's different every time you go.
It's constantly changing. I love that. Southside Cronulla, because of the social side of it. Cronulla photographers are very social. They're the most cohesive group I know, and the coffee shops are great. But somewhere different always excites me, and in photographing with other people really excites me, for somebody who quite likes being by themselves as well. I more and more enjoy photographing with other people as well.
Yeah.
But you invite me along and I. Easy then. Okay.
If you could retire at one of the places you've shot, where would it be?
Say that again for us, Grant.
Sorry, if you could retire at one of the places you've shot, where would it be?
Okay.
Oh no, sorry, Indonesia. What am I saying? I don't know.
It could be worldwide. Doesn't have to be Australia.
That's what I'm glad you qualified now, because since at the moment all I've mentioned is overseas.
So if it was overseas, it'd be Italy.
Okay.
For sure. That
the
was
Amalfi Coast.
Whole different style. Actually, no, Rome. I just fell in love with Rome. It was so beautiful and ugly at the same time, and filthy and crowded and chaotic and cold, and the food, everything so good. But in Australia, South Coast, the beaches down there, there's a lot of exploring to be done down there.
Absolutely.
I might retire to a camper van.
Yeah.
That's what I've done.
Am I cheating?
Mine, Australia, is definitely Queensland, because that's where I'm moving. So
nice.
Yeah, I would like to.
Burleigh Head, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And do you think Vaz would be retiring in Tassie?
I think she could be, yes. They've put a lot of work renovating their home down there. She's still got a foot in Cronulla, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still got a place in Cronulla. So all the kids are up here.
Nice. Yeah.
We'll see. As long as there's seagulls there, I think Baz will be happy.
That's it.
Always for the birds. She's in Cradle Mountain just the other day too.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Snow down there. So very versatile, our Vaz.
Mm. What's your most memorable photography experience?
I went to the Cook Islands for 3 weeks to actually learn my underwater photography.
Nice.
And learn the split landscapes and everything with another photographer. And it's just perfect location to learn underwater. The water's warm, like that turquoise colour isn't faked. In actual fact, you'd have to take the saturation down rather than up. So for me, Cook Islands.
I've got a photography day that was almost my perfect photography day. I think 4 of us decided to go to North Curly on a big wave day. And it was absolutely freaking fabulous. It was amazing, and then we were laughing and we were getting soaked and we were pulling each other up, and it was just so much fun. And then somebody said, "Oh, did you know about this?" And after we did the big cave day, the big wave day, we went searching in caves. And this was actually a Mother's Day. I was supposed to be meeting my kids for lunch, and I rang them up and later. I'm going later, and we just kept on exploring places that I hadn't been before, and it was just left of field enough to be really exciting the whole time, and it was just a spectacular day of everyone just rolling off each other, and had just the right level of adventure and excitement for me, and I really enjoyed that day. It's my favourite Mother's Day, and I didn't get to see my kids in the end.
It's Mother's Day.
They were okay with it because they knew that, I kept saying, "Oh, I might be a bit later, I might be a bit late." Okay, we're going to cancel. I was having too much fun, and it was really like, it was really scrambling around the place to get, and it was just.
I think that's hilarious.
It was the best.
That's fantastic.
And then we went
Bali.
that was good too. And that didn't continue then. And then I don't know what happened. We all went away for about 2 hours and came back, and then went up to Stockholm. So it was a 24-hour photography day.
Wow.
Stockholm.
I was going
to say Stockholm. That's a fair hike.
It was an impromptu 24-hour photography day, and none of it was planned. Besides being there at North Curly for a big wave day. It was
fantastic.
That's great. Sounds awesome. I don't think I have a single photography day, but I know that when I go somewhere that I've seen in photos and I get to photograph that thing, how blown away I am by that. So starting small, I love that fairy bower pool at Manly.
Yeah.
So many photos of it, and when I first saw it, it was like meeting someone famous.
Yeah.
Yes. So starting small, and then over in Italy, when I walked into St. Peter's Square, and you've seen so many photos, it was almost emotional. Actually, it was emotional, going, oh, and the statue of David, when I saw the statue of David for the first time.
Yeah.
And I must have 100 photos of that statue, and I can't bear to delete a single one. So that for me is photography, famous places and seeing them for the first time. Probably one of the ones I really do want to see is down on South Australia, the Southern Drive down there where you see the apostles and everything.
Yeah, the Great Ocean Road.
That's going to be incredible for the first time. So yeah, that's my
fantastic
photography moments.
We've talked about the good times. What about horror stories?
I don't have any real horror stories. I've got hoodoo spots. For some reason, I can't get a decent shot for the life of me if I shoot the Opera House at sunrise or the city, basically anywhere from the city at sunrise. I just was like, I'm not going to post that.
I've never had a good day. Never had.
You've got high standards.
House ever.
What was that?
I said you've got high standards.
He has got very high standards.
I am very picky. If you saw the amount of photos that I take that everyone goes, "Oh, they're amazing," I'm like, yeah, no, that never make it anywhere.
Those days when you're down at the beach and you get hit by a wave.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not getting wet, you're not doing it right. Isn't that the word?
Yeah. In winter. Ooh.
My horror stories are probably my own clumsiness or inattentiveness. I'm not very good at.
What about that time you went
recently?
Fell down a hole or something when you were hiking up to your chest?
Oh, actually, yeah. This is actually it was the first time I actually met another photographer that I didn't already know. No, an Instagram person, and I was on my way up to see my family on the coast, and I had been DMing with this person, and then we were going to go to Summersby together, and I hadn't met them, a bloke, hadn't met them, and I said to my family, look, I'll be off the road for a little while, and there's no internet there. Don't freak out.
I'm going into the bush with a stranger.
And I actually said,
strange
I said,
man.
who you with? I said, I'm meeting this person I haven't never met before, going into the bush with a stranger. I don't know when I'll be back. What are you doing, darling? We have all done that, but to the untrained eye, that seems a little bit bizarre.
That sounds a bit Wolf Creek.
It sounds a bit Wolf Creek. And now it's one of my favourite things to do, just go find something. But anyway, and I felt how in Summersby they've got those perfectly round. So I'm walking down, and I walked into one of those holes. So I sort of went down, put my camera up, and I'm like this in this deep water in this hole. It was all like this. And the photographer I was with just goes, oh my goodness, it is. And I went down a rope. This is in one shoot. I didn't pay attention to my tripod when I came down the rope and put my tripod down, and boom, over it went, lost the lens. It was actually, I really enjoyed that day.
I have one other, Cloudy Bay in Tasmania, when Carmel and I just going for a bit of a wander. She already knows now. We're going for a bit of a wander, and we're walking around the bay, and there's all these rocks and a bit of moss. And I was, saying to Carmel, be careful, it's slippery, blah, blah, blah.
Because I'm the one who has to usually be careful,
Yes. And then we got to a point, we can't go any further, turn back and walk back. And then we're walking, and then all of a sudden I just slip. And I fall backwards, and I start sliding down like this mossy part. But if I hadn't stopped, I probably would have crashed into the rocks. But luckily, I managed to find a tuft of grass to hold on to stop it. And then I'm holding my camera, though. My camera's protected. And I'm like going to come, going, quick, take a photo. So she's like, you okay? Fine.
Every photographer's instinct. The camera's fine. It's okay. We've protected our camera.
Save the camera. I don't care if I break a leg. Save the camera.
I never say that to a doctor.
I actually feel sore a couple of times. Oh my God, I sprained my ankle too. Yeah, that's right. I did sprain my ankle. Also, it was a lightning shot. I'd actually just gotten into photography. There was lightning going off crazy off the eastern suburbs. I was rushing down to Clovelly to get a shot, and I didn't realise, and like this is my local area, I forgot that the step off the footpath and onto those rocks is quite high, and I was so focused with my camera, etc., that I stumbled, tripped, and ended up spraining my ankle. And
that's actually broke her foot too. Yeah,
she got smashed by a big wave at Bronte, and it broke her ankle.
Wow.
So she was in a boot for months.
Yeah, and she's a lot more cautious now. She knows big waves can come.
Actually, I think I remember seeing her at an Instameet with the boot on.
Possibly. Yeah, that would have been in the early days.
Yeah.
Yeah, she broke her ankle. She got smashed up against, I don't know if it was further back from the toilets. It was those circular big gardens with the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was really big.
That would have been huge, that wave, yeah.
You wouldn't have thought you'd get hit by a wave there, but she did, and she got smashed up against the brick wall.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So, you have to be careful.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And the ocean is unpredictable, as we all know.
Photographers
Very much so.
like fishermen.
Yeah, I reckon so. Didn't one fall off at Diamond Bay Head or something? Some Instagrammer. And
I think there's been a few. There's been ones whale watching and Instagramming and falling off things all over the place. I always get a kick, as I think every photographer does. So rock fishermen should wear life jackets, but they haven't mentioned us yet.
Yeah, they never mentioned photographers. I use a pair of rock fishing neoprene booties for grip.
I heard you in another podcast.
If I'm venturing out, there's times where I stay clear of the water, particularly winter.
Yeah.
Yes, I've become a little bit more averse in winter. Got softer with COVID, I think.
Me, not so much.
Yeah.
I do have my new wetsuit. Very wetsuit.
So aside from getting wet, what's the practice of photography taught you about the world?
I do a little bit of street and portrait, just photography. And that was really just to push myself out of my comfort zone. And people are just so nice.
Yeah.
They're just so willing to help you. If you ask them for something, a photograph, they will so often say yes. Very rarely do I get a knock back. You can see their face drop where they're trying to think, what the hell am I doing here? But everyone's instinct is to automatically help. And it actually, photography, I think, reminds me so much, whether it be within our own community, and how sharing and how welcoming and how accepting everybody is of each other. And yeah, so I know it's our philosophy, but it seems to be the philosophy out there as well. But yeah, the general public too. People are just nice. People are nice, and photography reminds me of that. And if I ever feel a little down, I will go and take photos of people and just watch their interactions. And yeah, so I think photography is a bit of a touchstone. People.
Yeah.
I think for me as well, I find it fascinating that with all the nature photographers, how so many of them are also more and more photography they do, the more environmental activism.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the more, they just notice the impact that they have on the locations that they photograph, and even just it brings attention to those areas that are being overlogged and all those sorts of things, and that environmental activism, those places that you used to love that you could go photograph, and I'd go back 2 years later and you can't photograph them anymore because they're basically
they're being trashed.
Yeah, so I do find that I know photographers who have actually now done environmental science degrees and those sorts of things, and are tying their photography to the environment a lot more heavily.
Yeah,
I think it does affect you in that way. It makes you more environmentally considerate, because I know how angry it makes me now, whereas 10 years ago it might not have. I might have been angry, but not as angry as I am now. For example, I don't know, a month or so ago, I was on the rocks at Shelley Beach, and a fisherman had been there and had left his plastic bags and empty prawn bags and cut off fishing wire on the rocks. And I was furious about it. Like, really almost spoiled my morning. Yeah, I guess you get more angry about that stuff when you're out amongst it and you realise the damage it does.
Yeah,
and how
definitely.
inconsiderate some people can be, like thoughtless. Yeah. So even though they're mostly nice, there's some real thoughtless people out there.
Yeah,
I'm trying to put that nicely.
Yeah, they don't care.
I want to say it. Yeah,
that take three for the sea. You're a lot more. Even 5 or 6 years ago, you would go down to the beach, you'd see some rubbish, and there's rubbish and just keep going. Whereas now you see it like.
Yeah, you pick it up.
Pick that up. Okay, put that in the camera bag, and when I find a bin, I'll throw that in, because you're like, otherwise it's going to make it into the sewage, or it's going to make it back into the ocean.
And you would also see almost most photographers will pick up other people's rubbish too. Yeah, we're definitely an aware group as far as that.
If nothing else, just to get it out of their shot.
Exactly.
Oh, that's it. There's no other motivation.
What do you do if you hit a creative wall? Have you ever come to that point where you're just not inspired, you can't get a composition, or it's just not working for you? How do you deal with it?
I personally just look at other people's stuff.
Okay.
And just keep looking at other people's stuff for inspiration, or just to keep my finger in the pot, I suppose. That's what I do. And then try to arrange something with friends so that it forces you out again. Were we just saying at breakfast that if we don't make an appointment with each other for sunrise, we're often can't be bothered anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing. So we've got to make an appointment.
I think COVID really smashed everyone's patterns a lot, and an awful lot of people are having trouble getting back to that pre-COVID motivation levels. It's rare that I come across somebody who hasn't noticed that impact, and it's long term.
For me, it's more photographic evolution. I really only got into photography 5 years ago, and I'll go through phases where I'll look back and I'll be like, oh, geez, that's horrible. Or I take something and I'm like, that's just not quite where I want it to be. And so then I get myself into that sort of lacking inspiration and those sorts of things. And I'll either try, okay, I'm just going to put that to the side for a little while. I might flick to some whole new genre and just try that out for a while. I've been obsessed with ICM at the moment. And otherwise, I guess what the other two say, which is, you book in some time with like your friends and go, let's just go out shooting. almost take the pressure off yourself for a while, going, it's just, you do this for fun, you do this as a part of an enjoyment. So just go out and have some fun shooting, and you know, sometimes it just pull you out of the
doldrums.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
For me, yeah, I think for me, if I'm feeling without it, I know I need to push a boundary in some way, and that often will mean, funnily enough for me, I might have to plan. That's probably that, and not just let things happen. But be a bit more deliberate, is whether it be meeting, saying, okay, look, I'm not waiting for something to come to me, going and getting it, whether it be a shot I really want to do, or finding the time, or finding the time, I think is a big one.
Yeah, your life evolves.
Your life is constantly changing, and
sometimes it's hard to hang on to the things that make your life better, like photography.
Absolutely. And I don't think, even if you're in the, for me anyway, if I'm in the motivational doldrums, it's not because I ever think that photography won't do it for me. It's because just other things have taken over. And
right.
For me, it's a little bit of a core of me, I think. It's there. I know where I can center myself. I know how much I get from it. So it's never, always know that it doesn't matter if I get the photo. If I get out there and shoot, then I will be, it's good for me, and I'll be better. Yeah, I've forgotten my train of thought, to be honest.
But as we say, you never, if you get out for sunrise, you never regret getting out for sunrise, but you can regret not getting out for sunrise. So
it's fine.
Go out and get it.
Yeah. You never lose to how important for me, I never lose how important it is. But other things just take over sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Unfortunately, we can't always do exactly what we want. We give it a go.
What do you see as being the biggest challenge facing photography at the moment?
Oh, come on. We all know the answer.
And videos. Still photography, videos and reels and stuff like that, I think, is the challenge.
I'll put it down to the algorithms that we do need. I would love to have a platform that really still celebrated the photographer. And you didn't have to just keep on playing to somebody else's.
Yeah. I guess there are platforms out there, but none of them, for me, Instagram has always been simple to use.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's easy to like and comment. It's easy to like and comment. They've never removed that simplicity. But they've destroyed it with their algorithm, obviously. So you have to change with it if you want to keep getting that reach. We're definitely, with the clubs, our people starting to follow has definitely dropped down. So we've got to do something to try and change that. So that's the challenge, is always
how do we evolve?
Yeah, we've got to keep evolving to keep up with that. If we want to stay current, I think the reels, the videos are the biggest problem.
Yeah, Instagram trying to be TikTok is
challenge.
Opportunity, because I do a lot of reels, so opportunity.
Not a problem.
That's just my personal opinion.
And it is, because we were talking about this at breakfast as well, that, and even Mosseri, which I'm probably said his surname completely wrong, but everyone who knows the CEO Instagram who follows Mosseri, even today, his Friday session was talking about the focus is more on reach versus followers. You know, so all of those things like hubs and clubs that count on numbers of followers, etc., is a complete change of mindset away from, it's not about the number of followers that you have, it's the amount of reach that you get. And if you're only doing photos, then you're constraining your hub to only really predominantly existing followers versus reach to a broader audience. That change. But in relation to your original question, which I think was the
biggest challenge,
for photography, I think for professional photographers, the biggest challenge is the availability of photography to the amateur. People don't value a professional photographer's photo as much anymore.
Absolutely.
Because they can do it themselves. So I think that's the biggest challenge for a professional photographer. For us amateurs, I guess the challenge would be not stagnating and continually growing, where it's easier for us than a professional photographer because we don't have the financial constraints hanging over our head. But yeah, making sure you don't stagnate and stay the same and go to exactly that same rock pool every weekend and take the same photos every week.
Yeah.
For me personally, that's probably the biggest challenge.
But I'm still going to mention AI.
I
think we should talk about it. I don't know if any of you have seen the new feature that's in beta Photoshop about the generative fill. I had to play around with that the other day and got some hilarious results. I tried a blank image and just typed in some words to see what it would do to generate. Yeah. It really doesn't do people well at all.
Do you have to describe the person?
No, I did. Show me a person speaking in an event, and it had this person, and they had a microphone in their hand. The shape of the person was mostly okay, but their eyes were like chameleon eyes. They were all pointed in different directions, and it just looked bizarre. And their teeth and mouth was just all wonky. So it doesn't do things like that real well. The other thing, if you want it to do detail in a foreground, it's not great at that. There are some things that it is really good at. If you want to add a flock of birds flying through, or change your sky from a sunny day to a nighttime scene and that sort of thing, it's good at that.
Yeah. Like, I find it interesting because I think it's for me, and I think a lot of the competitions are talking about it now, like creating a new genre, because I feel that I do know there are certain parts of the industry that will be challenged by AI. They talk a lot about, obviously, in that commercial space, etc., especially things
Definitely,
like your promotional type shots and those sorts of things. Where people can just type in, show me a Nike, blah, 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 with this on the background, and there you go. Yeah. But yeah, I think from a creative space, I think for me, it's actually just another piece of the creative space. Like, you've seen some of the stuff coming out of Midjourney and that sort of thing, and some of it looks amazing. But it's the challenge around, balance that beautiful, authentic imagery that people are capturing in real life versus
it's truth in photography and without and outside of photography, and where that truth line is important and where it's not.
Yeah, being able to, I think that's one of the biggest challenges for journalism in particular, is being able to determine what's true, what's not. Because if you can generate somebody meeting somebody that shouldn't be meeting, they shouldn't be meeting with, or putting in photos as evidence of somebody doing something, and you can basically make pretty much anybody you want that's got a reasonable profile. And if you don't, even if you've just got a photo of them, you can feed that to the algorithm and it will spit out something, and you can have somebody doing pretty much anything you want. And
it's quite scary. Like in the US recently, there was a senator that did a speech on the floor, and it was about ChatGPT and AI, and he sat there while there was a spiel that he was talking about, and sat and listened to it, and then afterwards he goes, I didn't write that, and nor did I say that. But GPT wrote it, and it took my speeches from previous speeches and used my voice to say that statement. So none of that was actually me.
Wow.
It wrote the speech, and then it took my voice and it gave it. I've never said those words.
I think, so it's exactly the same issues that are facing, like, the world about AI, face creative people about AI, and that is having a trust in the truth and how we establish what truth is. And we know the laws are going to be way beyond the technology, way behind the technology. So that we just don't have the capacity to be ahead of that. And it might seem like it's not important in a photo, but it really does speak to how we value our artists and the things that feed our souls. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think it's important to have rules in place, because there are bigger pictures involved, whether it be somebody's job or we just have to really, in the world, understand what truth is, whether in a photograph or anywhere else.
And the pace it can spread. So someone creates a photo, they mock it up so it looks like something serious has occurred, etc. And before there's even a chance for people to say it's fake, it's already spread.
So it's a place for the community again here, because quite often with these moral issues, it's the community that lead the charge. Even in photography, I have no problems with using this as a tool or a creative thing, but I think it is actually quite important for us as a community to police that, not police, well, I don't know what the word is, moderate, thank you, that we are stating when it's a truth and when it's not. And when I say truth, something that's made, and we all know that we all play around with what's real and what's not anyway. But yeah, we really do have to establish some photography rules, shall we say, within our own community before it's too late, because truth's important.
It is, because even when you see images, even like the photos that you see today, we often talk about how edited it is and is it a composite and those sorts of things. Like, it's more completely happy if it's a composite. We just prefer if someone told us it was a composite.
So be honest about it and say,
don't make
be
it
upfront.
just one image.
Exactly. If you didn't really get that Milky Way off that particular location, you took that Milky Way photo on one day and you took that the other day, we're fine for it to be a composite. It might be an absolutely gorgeous shot and we wish that actually the stars aligned and that's the way it looked, but we just know it was a composite.
I think we do have a place in our photography community to do that, to just at least encourage truth and not shame. If you're using the tool, that's the way you encourage it, isn't it? You don't shame anyone for using it. It's okay.
Absolutely.
Just let us know. It's just creative choice. That's right. So I think we can definitely do it by not shaming people and creating a space where they can say, this is being played with.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the other things, and there's a bit of a debate going on at the moment in New South Wales around whether or not it's in public schools or allowed in public schools and that sort of thing. To me, one of the key things is educating our kids about how they can be used, how they can be misused and so forth. So banning it outright, I don't think is the right approach. I think for me,
that's like GPT right at the moment, right? Where
that's exactly
schools,
it.
The private schools are allowing it. They're like, are we creating another divide?
Exactly. You will create that divide, but also you're leaving a gap in their education about how those tools can benefit people.
Absolutely.
But also how they can harm people, and making sure that people are educated about that, because the lack of education on anything that we've got going on in the world is going to be a problem, because people will think one thing when the opposite is actually the case.
It's like ethics in technology.
Exactly.
I think they all need to be taught that it exists. Once again, it's like the calculator, and things will change. And there's no use banning something because that's just not the real world.
Ostrich head in the sand.
There's an opportunity to teach, and I'm not exactly sure how. There's an opportunity there to teach how to get to the root of what is true too, rather than saying just we can't do it, let's just turn our head. Okay, this is here. How would you find out if you were presented with this information? How would you find out if that was true? And that's what this generation needs to. They've got to be growing up with that information, where we just had our references down the bottom of our essay or something like that. But they have to have an equivalent. The technological equivalent of understanding where their source material comes from.
But even the advent of the internet, it's kind of like banning Google, because I remember when I went through high school, I had to go to either the Funk and Wagnalls or the Encyclopedia Britannica or one of those and find the right volume and then find the article and then type out what I'd learnt from that. And now you can just, prior to things like ChatGTP, you could just type in a search term and find out a whole raft of articles, including the Encyclopedia Britannica online and all those sorts of things. And there's things like Google Scholar, which actually give you the peer-reviewed articles on scientific developments and so forth. You can do all of that now, and it takes half an hour maybe to compile what it is that you want to, your reference materials that you're going to write your essay on.
But even that's a challenge, right? I use Google Scholar. I used to use it all the time, obviously, for all of my my degree activities. But the thing about the printed book, obviously, is that you had editors and they had to fact check and everything had to be done that. Whereas everything on the internet, unless you're using something like Google Scholar or all very official sites, there's still, you're just assuming that what they've written is true.
Is true, which is where some of the problems with things like ChatGTP come from, because it's going to take all stuff on the internet and then give you a response based on what it finds. And there
Yeah.
might be thousands more articles which are either incorrect completely or just false or deliberately trying to be incorrect, mislead people. And that may outweigh in the algorithm the ones which actually carry the truthful information. And
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
that in itself is one of the problems that you've got to teach kids about is, okay, you can't rely on this thing because of its references,
Yeah.
right? You can't rely on it to be the be all and end all of what you end up with in
The
your output.
responsibility lies still with the individual somehow, but where you put your faith and truth again.
Absolutely.
ChatGPT will have hidden biases. They're already talking about it. And
Absolutely.
then you can just take it going, just look at the troll farms. Let's just say they turn their mind to, rather than just talking about your tweets and all that sort of stuff, let's say that they change that and turn that into actual websites and just pumping in a lot of false data, then your ChatGPT is likely to actually have even more biased information.
Correct.
Because that volumes that they're using increases exponentially and becomes higher rated. But it's just, I know we've gotten completely off the topic of photography.
That's fine.
It's definitely relatable, and I just it's not better, it's worse or new. It's just new, and we've got to.
This is very technology.
I think we've got to
always raced ahead of the thinking and the rules. All the time.
We've got to find our way through it. Same as when photography came around. People have got to find a way through, work out how it works and how they can make it work for them.
And going straight, come on, the full frames to mirrorless. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
And going back to schools, they are actually teaching the next generation. We don't even know what those problems are going to be yet, so it's stupid bad.
Absolutely.
Now they're the ones that are going to be dealing with it. That is just a ridiculous response from people who don't know what to do with the new information. Our generation that might not know what to do with the new information.
Putting a finger in a hole and just hope the wall doesn't burst.
So as far as photography goes, I'm all for if you're going to go into a competition, having a separate category or something, and even judging an overall winner would be still okay with me as long as I was categorised. So truth still became important.
Yeah.
Or at least acknowledged as truth.
Absolutely. I've got a couple more questions for you. The one I'd like to ask is, what tips would you have for somebody that wants to start out in landscape photography, but also how would one of the clubs help them in exploring their start out in landscape photography?
When people send DMs asking, how do we get featured here? We encourage them to use the hashtags, of course.
Yep.
But the thing that we do encourage them to do is to follow the clubs and also follow the photographers who are using, follow the hashtag. Follow the hashtag, and then they see the other work of the photographers, and that can help them with their photography journey. I know that helped me open my eyes completely to how they do things. And that ranges from some photographers put their camera settings, the gear they're using, through to just seeing the different editing techniques, the locations. There's just so much information there, just following the clubs and the hashtags that we use. So, and following the photographers who have either been featured or are just using the hashtags. And it's a great way for them to get involved in the community. Then they can approach other photographers and learn from them. So that's my 2 cents worth. I don't know.
Fantastic.
I agree. That's exactly what we're about. We're about the reason we're there is to feature the photographers and to build that connection, and it's actually a great resource for someone starting out, an absolutely fabulous one. Just have a look what's there, click on the link to the photographer if you like what, follow them, just be inspired what's there. It's almost like a cheat sheet there.
Definitely.
Defining what you like and being inspired.
Otherwise, it's just the usual, get out and shoot. Even if you're on auto and you've got your first camera, as I said at the beginning, that when I first started, my camera's capability far exceeded my own. And now I've got 3 things, I think, left in my camera. I'm like, I'm just going to explore those just so I know every single last little thing for my camera now. But just get out and shoot, start on auto, meet fellow photographers. Yes, there are the few that are a bit off-putting or may not want to chat to you, but most photographers love to share. Once again, in our community, and we go out in our Insta meets, if you wander on up to someone to go, oh, how did you do that? Or how do you make that happen? People stop and explain. I'm more than happy to share any information. If someone asks me a question, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this and I did that, or this is what I recommend. So ask questions. People are really happy to have their time and spend it with you. But yeah, for us, it's not about being competitive. We're not trying to hold information that people shouldn't know, etc. So
don't do what I do.
Ask away. We've all made mistakes. We all know you take a couple hundred photos and you might get one that you like, So you just got to get out there.
Only a couple of hundred. Mine's more like 800 or 900.
Would you like a 900 in a month?
I was being polite. Okay?
That would be a good question. Ask when you come home from a shoot, how many are you looking at?
It depends on where I am and what I'm doing, but I've come home from a beach shoot, for example, with something like 800 or 900, and a little bit different when I'm taking bracketed exposures. So I might be multiplying one composition. I might be multiplying by 15 or 20 shots of the one composition, but all different light settings.
Do you rate your day by how many photos you've taken?
No, I don't. To be honest, other than this space, I don't care about any photos.
No? I just find it interesting when I go home and download, okay, there's 450. There's very rarely less, like 100 or 200 would be. Is that, I just find that an interesting little marker on how it's been.
For me, it depends because if I'm doing something that's photography, and you might have your
continuous on or something,
and then you'll obviously end up with a lot more. Whereas,
doing surf shots, it's easy 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So did I bring my spare cards? I've got my spare batteries. Otherwise, because I only use it sparingly, because there's nothing worse than coming back and having thousands of photos to trawl through. So I'm usually just reducing.
They're almost exactly the same.
That's right. And you can't bring yourself to delete any of them.
That one might be the one.
Annoying and exciting because it means that I've thought every second has been different and interesting as well. But it's a lot of work at the other end.
Well, thanks for that. I've got one more question, and for most people, it's the most important and divisive question that I ask. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Yes.
I like an extra pineapple, and my argument is always tomatoes are fruit as well, okay?
Absolutely.
I tend not to order ones with pineapple. However, I will never take it off if it arrives. It's always a little bit of a juicy surprise.
What about you, Brad?
Me, I'm fairly neutral. If it's on, I won't take it off, but if it's not on, it doesn't bother me, and I don't order it normally.
I get it added to any type of pizza.
All right, Grant, we have a pizza party, I reckon.
Definitely.
And next sunset, we'll have to have a pizza joint.
That's a great idea. We need to have an Instameet near a pizza place.
That's it.
We do. Absolutely.
This is purely research, Grant.
Absolutely. Find out who's on board and who's not.
Good. Thank you very much, Grant.
Thank you very much as well. It's been absolutely wonderful having a chat with all of you and getting to know you all a little bit better. Where can people find the Sunrise and Sunset Club, and I guess your own Insta handles?
Okay. The Sydney Sunrise Club is Sydney_Sunrise_Club. And the Sunset Club's the same, Sydney_Sunset_Club. I'm Casmaz62.
Yep.
And I'm Beautiful Interruptions, but it's Beautiful Dot Interruptions. But I've weirdly had people write the word dot. The
dot. Okay.
And I'm highly unimaginative. I'm Carmel Dot Montgomery.
Oh, thank you very much, ladies. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Oh, and Vaz is.
Oh, yes, Vaz. Can't forget her.
Yes, Vaz.
Vaz Harris, isn't she?
She's Vaz Harris. Hang on, let's just double check.
Is there any underscores or dots?
I don't think so. I think it's all together. Hang on. Yes, it's Vaz Harris all together.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Vaz.
See you soon.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Vero, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.